games there.
Yeah, these brackets are stacked. It doesn't matter who you are in this tournament. You are going to have to play a Quake beast. That's it. So it's up to these guys to stay mentally sharp, keep their nerves and emotions in check, and just play your game.
Yep.
Yeah, the rivalries are US and Europe, but they're also old and new.
Yeah.
I mean, we have a lot of young faces here who we've been seeing online. We've been seeing at the regional qualifiers. They made it here, of course, so congratulations. But now they got to play with the big boys.
And they are sort of ingredients for upsets here in the group stage. Only having 2 of these players move out means you've got to play every game as if you are playing against the current Quake champion. So there is A and B. I can tell you, a little tease, we are going to be seeing Rafa versus Cooler as our second matchup here tonight at QuakeCon 2017. Group C and D, though, we've got Waz, Boo, Claus, and Steeg. Over in D, we've got Saran, Griffin, Chance, and Sparty. And again, like, I would say D, I would not want to be at a Group D. I think you've got an incredible lineup there.
It's going to be very close. It's going to be very tight. Of course, Sparty has come in from the BYOC. Chance has been solid as ever. Of course, some of these players have also been playing in Sacrifice. So
right.
You can interpret that as them being warmed up or tired. We're going to find out.
We will. Moving on to groups E and F. We have a total of 8 groups. Vedmedic, we've got Astro Boy, Avic, and Phrase in E. And then in F, some more names you might recognize. We've got Kilson, Gelisac, Tom Servo, and Sweep the Legs.
You know, I can't help but chuckle a little bit because I'm like, you know, I'm thinking if I was a player, what bracket, you know, or what group do I think, man, I can't, they all look mean.
Yeah, there's not one.
Mean.
There's not an easy bracket going through these.
No, there's
How do
definitely
you think
not.
of these two?
I mean, you're usually looking for these death groups, but you're right. I mean, all of these are pretty nicely balanced in such a way that if you're in that group, it's going to feel like a death group.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And our final group pairing, this is Group G and H. Rounds out the 32 players competing here to go to the 16-man playoff. There you go. We've got, Dewey, Strengths, Faz, and Evil. Sorry, my eyes aren't as good as they used to be. Raisy, who we're going to be seeing in just a moment. Carnage, Toxjq, who we'll be seeing as the opponent, and Czar.
Again, that G group. It's just, I mean, and it, wow. What are you going to say? I mean, you got Dewey, Strengths, Faz. I mean, even Evil, you have Evil qualifying from BYOC. I mean, are you serious right now?
Every single player who qualified through the qualifiers, I think they knew that players who were close, that were like on that edge, were gonna probably come here and give the BYOC tournament a shot. I mean, it makes a lot of sense. So I don't think that anyone is surprised to maybe have that extra player who they're like, oh, I'm not looking forward to that. But at the same time, I don't think any of them wanted to be in that group. And some of them are gonna get exactly that. It means exciting Quake for us though, so.
Hey,
Overall,
I just get to watch and enjoy it.
Exactly, right? Overall, 32 players, again, are going to go in. We're going to have them play through the round robins group stage, and then the group the top 2, will advance to the 16-player playoff. So I don't know if you want to even announce a group of death yet, or if you just want to hear what we've got for our first match.
Let's get into it. I'm excited.
So our first matchup is going to be Raisy versus Toxjq. And again, 2 incredible players, both with their own legacy, both adding their own little subtexts and chapters in the Quake Bible as well. And let's take a look at the player cards here of these 2 players, and we'll kick things off with Raisy. And I don't know, anyone have some comments on Raisy? I love the fact introduced to Quake when he was 5 years old. That's the right time to start getting into this game, ladies and gentlemen.
That's right. Teach him young, get him ready, because, you know, now he has the years of experience that he really needs to compete at the top level. Very relatively young guy compared to Quake, so, you know, I'm sure he's looking to make some noise, make a name for himself.
You know what, Vic, too? I know that as we've gotten older, too, we said, man, if you would have given us a mouse and keyboard when we were that young, because we were all 16, 17, maybe a little younger when I'll tell you, this is the power of the new blood, man. They're born with keyboard and mice.
Yeah, to put that in perspective, my first computer in our home, I was 14 years old when I first started, you know, gaming on a PC. These kids, they're growing up on the stuff, so.
They're growing.
Yep.
And Raisy's opponent, it is going to be the legendary Toxjq, a QuakeCon champion himself here. Played very impressive high caliber play in both Quake 3, Quake 4, even had some runs in some of the older games. But Jahar, Toxjq, the Cyborg, what do you got to say about him?
After 2007, we didn't see a lot from him here at QuakeCon for a while, but he did come back, and he surprised everybody with just how sharp he was and how amazing he was. I'm really hoping that we get to see Toxjq at the peak of his form.
Well, guess what? We don't have to wait any longer. Ladies and gentlemen, the duels start here at the Quake World Championships, brought to you by AMD. Let's kick it over to Ketchup and Mustard to take us into the action.
Thank you very much, I mean, this is a hell of a match to start with. This is, first things first, a run back from the EU regionals. Toxjq was defeated by Raisy out there and eliminated from it back then. They've both gone Sorlag, a straight up mirror match to kick things off.
Now, I get the feeling we're going to be starting this at 100 miles an hour. This is two players that have fought in tournament before. We understand they are both incredibly high-level players, but also Raisy has been playing Sorlag almost the entire time that he's been playing competitive Quake Champions. And Sorlag really seeing a lot of game time now, specifically in the current state of the game. Raisy and actually both these players, in hindsight, have been playing Sorlag from day one. So we're going to see a masterclass on how to play this champion, I think.
Raisy is riding a lot of momentum as well, fresh off a good performance in the latest 125 FPS, where it was second place to Cypher, last champion on this exact map. So he's been grinding and doing really well for himself in preparation for QuakeCon.
So, upon looking at the actual champion lineups, you know, this being Duel, you get 3 champions, 1 life each. You choose them in an order you want to play them to try and defeat your opponent's team before they defeat yours. We have an exact mirror match here. So it's going to be Sorlag, Anarchy, and Slash on the side of both players. So this is just going to be a complete match of who can put these identical tools to better use.
Actually, I think you might be a little bit blind there.
That's Galena. That is not Slash, that's Galena.
Dun, 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 dun. All right, moving on very swiftly. It is going to be a mirror immediately, though, with 2 Sorlags. So the ticking damage isn't going to apply, but the impact damage of the acid does remain.
Still, we've seen Galena quite a lot on Corrupted Keep, and it's actually being used by the side of Raisy. You know, we saw in his play card, Corrupted Keep is Raisy's favorite map. And if he can get that ball rolling and get those totems on deck, depending if he even gets to use her, we might see a 1 champion win with Sorlag based on what we've seen before. But I mean, these guys, they played at the European Regionals, right? And it was very one-sided for Raisy at the time, but there's been a long time between then and now. And this first frag going down to the absolute wire, and Raisy's going to take down Toxjq straight away.
Now he's forced onto Anarchy. Anarchy is a really effective champion, sometimes at sort of catching you as you're weak, and he's spawned. But on this map, when you're going to be so close, so many big pickups already. Hang on a minute. The LG comes in. Wow, he was almost surviving, but not quite. At the last minute, Toxjq inches that one out.
Did look like Raisy was ever so slightly able to pick up some armor, but armor is no good to you if you have no health whatsoever. He's going to get taken down and back into this Anarchy versus Anarchy for the actual second life. Oh, straight away, we're going to fight. The mega health goes the way of Toxjq, which is going to keep him alive and give him some chase potential here.
I think Raisy acknowledges that it's going to be really risky trying to fight for that heavy armor. Better to just concede it. Try and get your stack back up using those little health items. You're not going to be able to sort of overcharge yourself, but it's going to be enough to survive at least.
Oh, a nice amount of damage on the rocket. Corrupted Keep, let's not get this is the map which does not have a railgun. It's all going to be down to machine gun for long range damage, lightning gun from the medium range, and then rockets for up close and personal. It really shifts around how you have to take these fights, especially when you're a squishy champion like Anarchy, but the mega health goes the way of Toxjq.
He's been able to control these pickups effectively so far. Like he's taken the vast majority of them in this round.
We'll try to pick up the heavy armor, is able to secure it. Raisy, we can see, is quite low in health, out on armor, but is still here looking to fight. Is Toxjq going to chase this?
A little bit confident. Checking a couple of rockets just in case, but definitely doesn't want to overextend this early on.
Oh, Raisy, though, using the teleport to backing himself into a corner up there. Can he fight his way out? It looks like Toxjq is actually content backing up now, giving him a little bit of space to move.
Yeah, give him the space and then try and maybe fight for the Mega instead. Does manage to take the Mega, a little bit overcharged, but not much armor right now. That'll be swiftly sorted out when this heavy armor spawns. But again, looks like Raisy's been able to force Toxjq away from it.
Also securing the heavy armor. So right now we see Toxjq been controlling it. Is he going down? Yes, he is. Raisy realizes that it is time to take the fight, and he forces it into Toxjq, and Toxjq now on his favorite champion, Slash, by herself.
Oh, wow, huge damage on that direct rocket. Tries going for the teleport, but I'm not sure.
Do they both have 1 HP?
Wait a minute, what just happened there?
I think they both had 1 HP, based on this how much they had on the actual HUD itself. But trading out that frag for a frag completely in Raisy's favor, as he actually has a champion advantage. So he can trade out that frag and not have to worry he's going to win the round.
Well, that's one way to start a round, going straight in. Now, in between the rounds, you can change the champion that you spawn with. As you can see right there, Toxic's gone Anarchy first rather than Sorlag, but Raisy has mentioned his favorite champion is Sorlag. He consistently goes Sorlag first as well. A very sort of common theme when you watch Raisy play Duel.
Now, we do tend to see Anarchy put up first because Anarchy's ability, that injection, upping his health permanently by 1 every time he uses it. If you have him first and can get an advantage, the longer you use Anarchy, the more health you will inevitably just gain as you play the round. Oh, he actually didn't have time. So much life just completely obliterated by Raisy. He takes the first frag again. Toxic forced onto Sorlag before he can build up any momentum whatsoever with Anarchy.
I mean, Toxic had the jump on him as well, but it's just the amount of damage that Sorlag is able to output with the spit combined with the LG. The health difference makes a huge difference in that kind of exchange. Toxic, he's in a bad spot. Raisy with the cleanup again. 2 champions down already. He's down to Slash, and we're not even 1 minute in.
This is just a testament to how aggressive these duels can be. We can go down to 5-minute overtimes, 1 frag rounds, or we can have a complete bloodbath like this where Raisy is just forcing the fight every time he can.
But even if he doesn't get the frag, he's still going to win that exchange because he's been able to force Toxic away from heavy armor. He has minimal. Right there, actually. I'm about to say if he has... no, that's it. Dead. Wow. Guaranteed. Before I can even finish what I was saying, the damage over time effect working wonders. And that's the strength of a champion like Sorlag on a map like Corrupted Keep. Close range, close quarters, almost impossible for Sorlag to actually miss the spit in any degree. And if you're using small light champions, not only are you going to get good coverage on the map because you can see the damage numbers through the map, but the damage in itself just keeps the opponent on the back foot at all times.
This match, very much a bit of a playground for Sorlag, as it were, just letting her do what she wants, having a lot of fun in the process. A bit of Toxic was able to secure the heavy armor, I believe. Raisy getting the mega health, so that's one thing we'll see quite often today is trading the big pickup for the big pickup. But looks like, yeah, Toxic has opted to start with Sorlag again this time. Just trying to run that mirror from the first life onwards.
I think one major element in this exchange is that the Corrupted Keep first is taking the rail away.
That was a bit of a misplay coming out for Raisy though. Forced to use that acid a little bit early. Takes a lot of damage in the process too, but able to salvage itself with a bit of heavy armor.
Toxic with the chase though, definitely more than aware that he's going to be there. But as I was mentioning, actually, it's the important thing about a map like this is that you've taken the option of a railgun away from Toxic, who has one of the best rails in the business.
For sure, but we're seeing that massive difference. Toxic trying to just put this area denial on that mega health, knowing it's going to be up in just a few seconds. He comes down, but it's going to go the way of Raisy. Is he going to win this 1v1? Yes, he is, ever so slightly again. Raisy is just getting the upper hand in these straight-up 1v1 engagements every round.
It's just his knowledge of when he can land an acid spit, because when he goes in for the acid spit, almost every single time he activates it, he gets a frag. And that's just the knowledge. The amount of time this guy has been using Sorlag since day one. That's it. You know when to use abilities as game-changing as that spit in a fight.
But this is just such a clash of a matchup, though. Toxic forced up on his injection already. Did any of the acids connect? It did indeed. So Raisy's going to have an idea where he is for a few seconds more. He's going to see him going towards heavy armor. And Toxic, he is unbelievably weak. And you can see Raisy, he's going to be a complete bully here. Tries to do as much damage as he can, but really, Raisy knew where he was on the map because he saw the damage numbers and he acknowledged he's got to be weak in this situation. He was correct. 30 HP was all Toxic had. A bit of a miserable situation for Toxic to be left in now, though. Just Slash alone versus Raisy Sorlag, that has been his star champion, his favorite champion for so long. And there we go, just so quickly. The damage just adds up out of nowhere. And Raisy taking a confident first map off of Toxic.
So, makes sense as to why we saw that map get selected in the first place. And he said it himself. His favorite champion, Sorlag, favorite map, Corrupted Keep, used both of them to absolutely great effect. But one major element, taking the railgun away from Toxic is only ever going to be beneficial to you. I said it earlier on, he has one of the absolute best rails in the scene. And for that reason alone, if you can take away this major tool that he, I don't want to say needs, but will greatly benefit from, it's going to be a fantastic start for you as a player.
But even beyond the tools of the game, this is such a dramatic clash of legacies in Quake. You have Toxic. Like, Toxic's resume speaks for itself in competitive Quake. Just Quake 4, absolute legend. Arena FPS player generally, just this guy is a master of this genre. And then up against him, Raisy, a younger gentleman that over the last few weeks, like from when Raisy qualified at regionals to now, like the sort of 3 or 4 weeks we've had between then and now, I mean, there has been such, it's almost like, you know, turning on a light switch of just how much improvement Raisy has managed to just accomplish between then and now. It is insane how much better he's become over the last couple of months.
He qualified in the second half as well. He qualified in week number 3. It was not I enter in week 1 and breeze my way through the bracket. It took him 3 weeks to eventually qualify, and he's been dedicating since his qualification 100% to Quake Champions. And right now, the proof is in his gameplay, and he's been playing in tournaments very recently. I mentioned it earlier on, 125 FPS, where he was in the grand finals against Cypher, and it was literally last round, last life against one of the absolute best players in the world. If that doesn't say things about how well you're doing currently, I don't know what does.
So going into this next map, looks like it's going to be Blood Covenant as we move on forward. So Corrupted Keep, we know, was Raisy's favorite map, the one that he preferred the most. It is obviously so good for Sorlag, which is a champion he is very confident on. But now, moving on to Blood Covenant. Let's see if he can continue to be just as dominant here.
Sorlag in selection. Definitely not surprised by that at all. Toxjq has been a bit more prone in Quake Champions, though, to not just changing a champion here and there, but drastically changing almost an entire team comp depending on the map that is selected. So you wonder what lineup he's going to go for. Inclined to think that we're probably going to see Raisy go with a very similar lineup all the time. He does sort of stick to a very small champion pool, and that again is a difference between some of the players in this game. Sometimes people stick with a designated 3-man team the entire time. There might be one variable they'll switch up on a certain map, like on Blood Run you might see Galena picked a lot more often. Corrupted Keep you used to see a lot more Clutch. Obviously recently being somewhat replaced by Sorlag, but still very popular.
But on the topic of champions to maps, you know, we saw the Galena there from Raisy, but didn't actually get to see it used at any point, which I think is a testament to how dominant Raisy was looking in the map generally, but still, knowing he has just so many champions sort of up his sleeve, and Toxjq, I have no doubt, is very much the same. We do tend to see entire lineups change dramatically depending on the map. Usually we see that as a general rule of thumb, but like you said, right, sometimes there are players that just favor specific lineups or specific champions, and if that lineup happens to be a bit of a jack of all trades and is good on most maps, then all the power to you. But usually that isn't quite as clear-cut the case.
Well, one huge element about Duel, the map control, being able to make sure that you are in control of those important items, restricting the opponent's ability to take what they need to take to basically get going and to maybe start a comeback or be the one in control of the match. In the first round of Corrupted Keep, Toxjq was definitely the one behind the wheel there. He had the vast majority of the items, and he was actually keeping Raisy on the back foot. It was that one fight that kind of went pear-shaped, and then that was the end of the round. But from that round onwards, the momentum was in Raisy's favor almost 100% of the time, because they would eventually fight early on. The fight would just be better for Raisy, he'd just do more damage, his lightning gun would be more efficient. Even if he had the drop on him, you know, where if he was the one that was being surprised, he would still win the fight. And because of that, Toxjq just wasn't able to get going at any moment. It was like a complete snowball effect that we do see in Quake Champion duels in particular.
So, Blood Covenant, next map. Who are some champions that we tend to see used a lot in this map? I mean, Nyx for sure, like 100%. I'd be very surprised if we don't see at least one of these guys go with Nyx. I think it depends on whether they feel comfortable with her. I mean, we know she's very popular on Blood Covenant, is just great at moving around that sort of upper level, and basically playing the floor as lava, never having to set foot on the ground whatsoever. But also Scalebearer. We actually saw Toxjq play Scalebearer very early on in the Quake World Championships all those weeks ago, but to amazing success. Scalebearer definitely a champion we don't see too much of nowadays, but still has his place in certain specific ways. But do you think if you're going to be bringing out these champion picks that we don't see too often nowadays, do you think you do that now with potentially one map left to go?
I'm not sure. I feel like times have changed a little bit since then, and that's why we have seen quite a drastic change in some of the more core champions, I guess you could say. If you're going to go on Blood Covenant, got to make sure you're rocking a champion that can navigate freely, where they have the sort of unpredictable pathing. Anarchy, a very clear example of that. Nyx, very clear example of that.
Ranger, very popular.
Yeah.
Visor has his place too.
And what we mean by that, obviously, for those that may be watching and maybe somewhat new to Quake Champions, champions that have good mobility on Blood Covenant is because there are lots of jumps that only specific champions can make. If you can't make that jump as a champion, you have to either nail jump or rocket jump, which involves A, doing damage to yourself, and B, making a lot of noise. If the opponent can hear that you've rocket jumped somewhere, not only do they now know that you are a certain place on the map, but to rocket jump, you must have done damage to yourself. So if you're playing as someone like Slash, Anarchy, Ranger, Nyx, their passives and their mobility just allows them to naturally navigate the map without doing any damage at all, and sometimes actually remaining quite silent. And on Blood Covenant in particular, if you can do that effectively, your just general pathing becomes a lot more unpredictable because you've now got an entire new dimension of areas that you can take around the map.
But really, it boils down to a question of whether they're the kind of champions that we'll see from both of these. We understand Sorlag has been a favorite of Raisy's from day one. We know Toxjq has always favored these big-bodied champions. Sorlag being one of them. We've seen him play, I believe, all of them, actually, at some point during the World Championship. Toxjq has had a very diverse champion pool at his disposal, but I mean, now you're playing for $1 million. Now you're not qualifying. You're not playing in smaller tournaments on your way up here. It all boils down to what you want to lay the money on the line for.
There are so many storylines in this tournament. I mean, we've kicked things off, right? I mean, the run back between Toxjq and Raisy. Now, Toxjq, when we watched him play in regionals, it was definitely not a Toxjq that I think anyone was prepared to see. You know, very visually sort of uncomfortable within the game itself, and it just wasn't a good day for him, I don't think. He has been playing superbly well today in Sacrifice, because let's not forget, plays on a not too fast with the rest of his team, and they have qualified for semis, and they will be playing again later in this tournament. And now it's time to play Duel, you know, so you're already sort of riding a nice amount of momentum. Your morale is high, you're in a good spot to play for life-changing money in one of the game modes. Now you can concentrate on this mode, but you're not going to be, I guess, upset about a previous result. You can now focus on something else and then try and increase your chances for huge cash beyond both game modes.
But this is going to be a matter of, we know that Raisy defeated Toxjq back at the European Regionals. So do you think this is a case for Raisy being able to prove to everyone that this was no fluke? I deserve, you know, I definitely deserve to win, and I'm going to be able to do it again and show you that it wasn't lucky. And also Toxjq being able to take it to show I can beat you. You know, we're at very least going to go 1-1 here. But when I beat you, it was at the World Championship, not the regionals.
Both these players are wanting to send a message, and they'll be doing just that in due time. While we get this match underway, we're going to go for a very quick break. Don't go anywhere, because the Quake World Championships will continue after this.
Duel mode has always been really critical to Quake champions, but we never actually set out to do that. We realized years ago that people love watching Duel games.
One thing we did do is we looked at similar games that have these challenges, like fighting games. In a fighting game, you know, you could have a Street Fighter where you
want to
had
make
two
the remark
Ryus
about
playing
fighting
against each
games.
other, but it's much more exciting
We
to
should
have
have put it
a
in
full
a
lineup
non-clumsy
where
way,
it
I
has these
suppose.
different skills.
I want to mention fighting games,
In
but
Quake
I don't want it to be
Champions,
clumsy
Duel mode
or
consists
forced.
of 3
But I want to
champions
find a way
you bring
off this
into your
video to
arena,
say,
and you have 1 life per
Sinclair mentioned it
champion
himself,
per round.
where they
There
looked
is
into
much more
fighting
strategy
games, for
with
example,
Duel.
as a means
You
to how to
know
conquer these
all
kind
the
of
champions.
matchup-based
You
games.
have to know how to play
Let's talk about,
against
but
those champions.
Having
as
characters
two
that
people
move
who
at
have
different health rates
extensive
and have these
experience
special
in competitive
abilities,
fighting
it
games
makes
as
everything
well.
very important and exciting.
They
because
share
of the
extreme
importance of the
similarities.
kills.
It's
Not
still
just
very
as
skill-based,
a game
but
with
that
characters that's
metagame
1v1,
around
but just
Duel
the core
really
of a
adds
1v1.
a lot to the experience.
Something's happening I can't control. I fear a place so dark. Somehow I feel.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back. This is the Quake World Championships presented by AMD, and our Duel Cup has begun. It's going to be Toxjq versus Raisy. Raisy currently one map up, and our next map likely being Blood Covenant. Toxjq looking to be probably a bit stronger on this map, I think. He's going to have access to the tools that help him in a duel setting, the railgun being a major addition, I think, for him in this matchup. Interested to see how he does against Raisy. This is a run back from Regionals. Will Raisy make it 2-0?
We will find out soon. That was a very swift first map. It was Corrupted Keep, and Raisy practically didn't lose his Solag at any point, really. I think they may have been like perhaps the first round, but for the most part, it was like a complete one-man army or one lizard, dinosaur, whatever you want to call Solag army.
One Sorg army, I suppose, is the more accurate term, but
Indeed.
Really, that's quite a running theme, isn't it? With Raisy and his Solag being quite untouchable. The last time these guys fought, being in the EU Regionals, was very similar, where the Solag was the real bane of Toxjq's existence, and it looked to happen again here. Like, even in situations where Raisy did not get the first shot, the jump was on him, he still came off better in the fight. And sometimes with a nice amount of HP left, like his aim and his acid was just more on point.
But the scary thing about someone that is this confident with a single champion is that Raisy is not afraid to put Sorlag out first every time. So you know you have to deal with that nightmare of a champion to play a pairing immediately in every round. But that was Corrupted Keep. That was a map with no rail, and we all know that Toxjq is a little bit of a surgeon with that rail gun. And going on to Blood Covenant, it is such an important weapon on this map particularly.
Now, how well he plays in this map is obviously, of course, going to be unbelievably important. You cannot afford to go out this early on because losing any form of comfort zone at all, it's difficult because this is round robin format.
No one
Every
wants to,
win counts.
Of course, no one wants to be down one win at the end of a group stage. You'll have to play against everyone else, and you know one map winner would have made all the difference. No one wants to be in that situation, but Toxjq needs to do his best to stop that from being a problem for him and moving on as we go through this warm-up phase. Looks like Raisy again. We can see Sorlag's little portrait. Raisy's going in for it. Not a big surprise at all.
Slash on the side of Toxjq. I mean, if you are a Quake 4 god, go with the Quake 4 champion, but Sorlag versus Slash first is going to be quite an interesting matchup. And just to really sort of touch briefly while these guys get set up, I know Sync Error during that Duel video made the comparison that they looked into fighting games as the sort of challenges that fighting games will face. As a couple of people that have played a couple of fighting games in their time, there are a lot of glaring similarities between the two genres, and matchups and champions is a complete example of that.
Especially considering how it adds that extra layer of knowing what their champion is capable of and how you, with your champion, can basically play around that, which is a big thing here. But Toxjq, straight away going into those three fast champions, Slash, Anarchy, and Nyx. A big thing here, though, is Nyx, the Ghost Walk, being able to completely nullify the damage over time properties of the acid that Raisy's been getting so much work out of.
There's no doubt that Raisy is more than aware of how much damage he just output. Going in for the kill, if you're Sorlag and you spawn with that much health and you know that you have enough damage. And speaking of damage, Toxjq just caught between a rock and a hard place. Just the knowledge of when to attack and when to go back. Like, Raisy really, every single time he smells blood, he gets a frag. And that's just the way it goes so far.
But this is just that ruthless situational awareness that we see a lot in Duel. Is a lot of passiveness here and there, a lot of being careful, a lot of waiting for your moment. But as soon as you have that confidence and as soon as you can smell blood and realize it is time to force that fight, Raisy does it time and time again. And 9 times out of 10 is coming away with the win. Oh, the acid didn't quite hit its mark. Raisy very low now, but Toxjq stepped a toe into it.
They collided at the last minute, so even though Toxjq will survive this exchange, Raisy now knows exactly where Toxjq retreated from.
Raisy has quite a lot of space to build up health, taking
Very
a little
weak.
while.
Very
Indeed, yeah, 50 health, 25 armor, 75 now. Doing a better job. Mega health is up too.
Risky to go for the Mega in this state. A while before heavy armor also.
I will say though, 2 frags down on the board already in less than 2 minutes in. Raisy's making this a very aggressive round. Normally we do see players quite prone to the timeout, really going for that defensive play, not trying to be too overly aggressive, but Raisy, he's picking his fights perfectly. He knows when to go in, when to dip out, and Toxjq now on this Nyx. I mean, let's not say it's an impossible comeback, but it's going to be difficult. 3 minutes left to do.
You've got to take out that Sorlag first, and it's proved to be a real problem. But then again, when the Sorlag goes down, you've still got an Anarchy. We are yet to see Raisy's Galena as well.
Oh wow, Raisy missed that quick shot. Toxjq was able to nail it on his way through though. Toxjq is known for that amazing accuracy on that rail.
Give
And he
Toxjq a
consistently do
rail, and magical things do tend to happen.
And now we're going to the slow-paced game. We know Raisy, he has the champion advantage. When the clock hits 5 minutes, we'll go into overtime. Whoever has the most champions left alive at the 5-minute mark will win the round. So right now, Raisy has a commanding lead if we find ourselves playing for that. Every second will count. Raisy now playing a lot slower than we've seen because he has the time to work with. It is on his side.
Regular stack all the way as well. Here we go.
Oh, unfortunately, another load of acid not quite hitting the target. It's going to be a considerable amount of cooldown, though. Hourglasses will help now. 20 seconds left to go. Probably going to pick up the rest on the way.
Toxjq not forced to use his Ghost Walk either.
Already Raisy managing to almost have the acid spit back, though.
Oh, unfortunately misses the rail. That's probably going to be it. And wow, just like a clay pigeon shot right out of the air. Round 1 to Raisy again.
I'm fairly sure Toxjq had his Ghost Walk available, though. Do you think he just didn't expect the follow-up rail in that situation?
Potentially. Definitely could have been what we saw right there, but 1 round down again. He has, that's it. If it's 2 more rounds gone, and Raisy's going to take this one. Raisy's starting with that soul lag again. And Toxjq needs to really try to win this first fight. If he can take out soul lag immediately, we know Raisy's going to be put onto champions that he hasn't played as much. I mean, that being said, I'm pretty sure there's no way Raisy is not confident in any of the champions he's picked here. Like, if he's picked these 3, it's probably for a damn good reason. Soul lag really has been the one we've seen the most of so far. If history taught us anything, getting rid of that soul lag though from Raisy is definitely easier said than done. Oh no! Misses the jump ever so slightly. That's going to force him to use the jump pad, and of which will make a lot of noise. And also puts him in a very dangerous position. Obviously going through a jump pad, you are in the air, you are basically a sitting duck until you hit the ground again. But Raisy nowhere near. Heavy armor gets secured though. You see he's going to be very stacked on what is an incredibly tanky champion. Unfortunately, missing rails like that one, it's not just going to be the fact that you don't do damage, but Raisy obviously heard that. He's going to know that Toxjq was nearby. Sound cues playing a huge part in Duel, especially on this map. You see the patience though. Oof. Toxjq goes for a quick shot, doesn't quite take it. Raisy all the way at the end. Slightly different change of pace from previous rounds, especially in this series. Once again, we find ourselves in a situation that they are trading the big power-ups for each other. Mega health to Toxjq, heavy armor to Raisy. But heavy armor on a tanky champion like soul lag, we know just how hard to take down someone like that can be. Toxjq not going to miss the little jump this time. Well, with the natural health pool that soul lag has access to, the second you get that heavy armor, you can tank your fair share of rails before you even are forced into a fight situation. Here comes Toxjq actually, going in for the kill. Unfortunately misses one of those rails, but one more is going to keep Raisy in check. But just look at the health and armor differences. Even though he ate 2 rails, Raisy is still healthy and can tank 2 more.
That was all because Raisy timed his presence there perfectly. He was able to pick up the heavy armor in this situation. Ooh, a nice quick rail getting shot down from Toxjq. Oh, they both missed the mark. No, if Raisy wasn't able to collect the heavy armor in that situation there near the heavy armor, he would have gone down for sure, but good timing is going to keep him alive. And again, we go back to the stalemate. No frags down on the board. You can see Toxjq. I mean, Toxjq, considering how quickly he's losing his first champion in all these rounds in this series so far, I mean, I can understand the change of pace. You do not want to make a mistake that will cost you what could be your favorite champion. You know that, obviously, Toxjq very confident on this Slash.
But you can just see this movement. You can see why Slash on this stage is going to be so useful, because she has the ability to just navigate freely. Any jump that she really wants to take, with the exception of maybe a couple.
Unfortunately though, Toxjq had a chance to take down Raisy with that rail, but it was ever so slightly not quite accurate enough. And Raisy's able to survive again.
I think this change of style is going to help Toxjq quite a lot. I mean, this sort of like fast, in-your-face style, it's just complementing Raisy. The second he goes within that close range, that is his effective range. It's where he wants to be. If Toxjq plays almost for the timeout and the 1 frag, maybe we'll see better results. Controlling the items really well, not getting bullied too heavily.
I really like, though, how Toxjq has been, like, the range he's been forcing these fights has been out of that effective range where Raisy can almost, like, reaction place those acid balls, right? He's putting it in a situation that Raisy has to, like, preemptively try and, like, you know, lead where he thinks Toxjq is gonna go. And because he's playing Slash, who's so good at juking left to right, it's really easy for him to dodge from the range that he's been forcing the fights.
They were so close to each other right there, but with Raisy walking, making no noise whatsoever, Toxjq did not know he was there.
Minute and a half left on the clock. We might go down to a 1 frag round at this rate. We'll have to wait and see what happens. Toxjq has the jump on Raisy. Raisy, though, forces this. And again, the acid doesn't connect. Raisy just has not been on point with the acid in this round.
But speaking of which, Toxjq, he's now going to know how much damage he's done. Gotta be careful, though, because 1 direct rocket can still turn the tide. And wow!
I thought for sure that was going to hit direct, but only 29 damage. And there is the rail that he needed. Toxjq pulls ahead with 1 minute left to go. Does he play the lane game for a minute? Does he try and go for a win on timeout?
If there was any moment you get a revenge token, that is the time. Like, finally getting that frag on soul lag. And he's now back in the action. Trying to evade Anarchy for 45 seconds, though, is going to be a bit tricky. Here comes the fight.
Meets him head on, and he's going to take that. That is probably going to be the round for Toxjq. I do not think Raisy can kill 2 champions in, well, basically 30 seconds left with just Galena. But if we see it happen, it has to happen now. This is Slash. That Plasma Trail and the Mega Health. This is going to be hard to kill. I don't know if Galena has the speed to keep up with Slash.
It's also the fact that if you notice where Raisy, he spawned near the heavy armor, but he spawned at the bottom. With the exception of using like a nail gun jump, he's not going to be able to easily get rail. He's not going to be able to easily get rocket launcher. I mean, it's going to take time time for him to even get those weapons. And now 10 seconds left, he's got to get 2 champions. This is impossible.
Now this is going to be it. Toxjq going to take this round for sure. Going to tie things up 1 round apiece, showing signs of life absolutely by taking out Raisy Sorlag first, and then his Anarchy in swift fashion to follow up. And Toxjq even things up in the second map.
So, what we just saw there was a distinct change in game plan, and it worked. But if you're going to be Raisy, you're going to be aware. I mean, what I'm expecting to see in this next round is Raisy to be just way more aggressive and just prevent that champion lead from even being a danger to begin with.
I think one of the biggest things we saw was just a complete change of pace. Toxjq was much more willing to get out of a fight if it didn't look like immediately that he was going to be winning it. Whereas before we'd see him commit quite a while because he was just confident he could just take that 1v1 and he would narrowly lose it. Most of the time, Raisy would narrowly win that 1v1, but now Toxjq is just, if he's not 100% certain he is 1,000,000,000% going to win that 1v1, he is getting out of there and using the speed of Slash to safely put that distance between him and this very scary Sorlag.
Just look at those weapons. He's got super nail gun for distance. He's got a rail gun good to go. A lightning gun also. Forced to retreat here though. Really can't survive a rail at this health.
Yeah, you cannot afford to be at rail health on Blood. Oh, Raisy comes around with the acid. One of them connects. No, not quite.
8 health left as well. Could not afford to put a toe into the acid puddle.
You know,
Toxjq's going to be on the back foot here.
You know for sure Raisy's going to be kicking himself in that situation, though. It looked like for sure that Toxjq had been hit by some form of acid there. It did not have the space to juke around. And with the amount of health, I mean, Toxjq survived with 8 health and nothing more. If Raisy, like, clipped him with anything in that situation, this would have been a frag, but...
Here comes Raisy. He's got heavy armor as well, which means that if he wants to take this fight, he definitely can. But I think he opted to be a little bit safer right there. Toxjq maybe expected him to take the Mega slightly earlier.
He knows he's still there. I mean, if you see players just standing still, you know they're almost like, more often than not, listening out for pickups. They're listening for those audio cues just to let them know where the enemies are.
And Toxjq's lightning fast movement will make him naturally hard to hit with those rails, whereas he himself isn't really having that problem. But as I said that, misses 1, allowing him to be a little bit healthy.
Oh, Raisy in a bad situation here, connects no acid again. I mean, just gets one single piece of damage over time, but not going to be enough. And Raisy's going to lose that Sorlag. Raisy not looking quite as clean as we've seen him before.
He's using the acid spits really early. Like Toxjq is clearly as well forcing those acid spits away from him. So when he fights next, he's not got them available. And the second he's not got the acid, Toxjq with his LG just became way more dangerous because it's going to be LG versus LG, not LG versus spit and LG, which is what we're seeing more constantly.
It is a massive drop in DPS when Sorlag does not have access to that acid for sure. Playing around that ability, I mean, again, like we said at the start, it goes back to playing the matchup, playing against the champion, knowing that when they don't have that ability stocked, they aren't anywhere near as dangerous. But if they have the universal tools like the rail, the rockets, the lightning gun, almost like a legendary trio of weapons. Ooh, only 2 damage though, not quite as much.
Yeah, Anarchy was just so happened to be mid-jump during that transition, so taking minimal splash damage in that exchange.
Oh, misses the rail. Raisy's zipping around, knows immediately that Toxjq is up there.
In some ways, that last-minute jump actually to sort of not get hit on that bridge. Nice call from Raisy to go for rail instead. And on that subject, now he's got a rail of his own. This long-range game just became a little bit more dangerous for both players.
All those people missing that rail. That isn't like Toxjq to miss the shots like that, especially when Raisy is just able to turn around with his own shot in retaliation. Toxjq now on rail health. Armor's going to help him survive now. Helping him survive. Oh, but Raisy is point blank. I don't think he expected him to be there. And Raisy's going to get the frag on Toxjq, evening things up. 2 champions left again. And Raisy pops the injection, so he's back to full health. But I think Toxjq is quite close by. Oh, we have to go for the rail. I like that. Toxjq.
Oh, I was just about to say he's got no armor. And even though he missed that first rail, it didn't matter. He just cleaned house. And if you're Anarchy on spawn, you've got no armor and you get railed, that's it. 1-hit kill. See you later, mate. No Anarchy for you.
That was so beautifully played by Toxjq as well, though. Like, he actually spawned right near Raisy. He could have gone for like an earlier fight if he wanted to, but he purposely used the Ghost Walk just to get hold of the rail immediately because he realized, okay, it's Anarchy, I need rail to kill him. And then as soon as he made that decision to go for rail and got that 1 shot, all it took was literally 1 shot on that rail. Whereas he lost that Anarchy is now on this Galena.
But clearly Toxjq knew that. And that's why he took that exchange. It was very calculated and it worked out, but Raisy in trouble once again. Toxjq not going to try and overextend too much. I mean, once more, he's got the advantage here. He just has to run away from Raisy for almost 40 seconds left.
Toxjq was staying close by, just in case Raisy let his guard down. You have to be so careful. As soon as you see Nyx go invisible and use that Ghost Walk, you have to be worrying. Is she going to use it aggressively? Is she going to try and assassinate? Or is it just going to be a way to get away? Ooh! Raisy taking so much damage from that rail. Toxjq really making them count now.
But every time he gets hit, I mean, the pressure adds up, you know, more and more, because every rail forces Raisy to not be able to push so hard, because even if you get hit by one rail and survive, a lightning gun will probably finish you off, a rocket launcher probably will. Now 10 seconds left, he's got Ghost Walk. No doubt Toxjq, he's going to play this defensive game.
Oh, that's a lot of damage. Raisy has no choice but to go in though, really. The Ghost Walk is popped. 3 seconds left to go. It's going to be a miracle if Raisy can get this. I don't think it's close enough, and Toxjq slips away for another timeout victory. 2 rounds to 1. Toxjq 1 round away from tying things up, 1 map each.
Well, the change to be more defensive, to be more conservative, it really is night and day. It's definitely not what we saw on the first map, but really, I don't think Corrupted Keep even allows you to play that way. This hyper-defensive game, picking them off at range with Rail, not even to just get frags, but to keep them at bay, to keep them from being overly aggressive, not letting them attack you with full stack, because the Rail just whittles the health down bit by bit. It works fantastically on Blood Covenant, but wasn't possible on Corrupted Keep.
But this really just seems to be a speed that Raisy just isn't that comfortable playing on. Toxjq really forcing this to slow down, playing at his own pace. Whereas before, Raisy, I mean, we saw Raisy's clearly one of his strongest strengths as a player is winning those point-blank 1v1s when he knows he has the damage and he has the accuracy to win those straight-up 1v1s with LGs point-blank. Toxjq just isn't letting him get in that situation anymore. He's conceded that, okay, I cannot beat you this way. Let me change up my strategies.
That would have been a horrendous rail to get hit by. That would have lost his slash really early on. But an immediate adaptation Raisy done there was he got the rocket launcher and he went straight for rail. Like, his mission is to keep the rail away from Toxjq. I know now he's been able to pick it up, but just not letting him get the rail to begin with. Just trying to deny that important tool.
Oh, these columns being the worst enemy of both players so far. Also, though, one notable thing about both the rounds that Toxjq has won has been keeping hold of his slash, right? Being able to take out Raisy's Sorlag before he loses his slash. So he actually has the lead. He is in a position that he can dictate that pace. Whereas if he loses his first champion and Raisy has 3-2, Raisy's going to be very happy to not take the fight, but doesn't need to. And there we go, Toxjq manages to completely get in the wave and misses another rail. And Raisy's starting to run away with very low HP.
Toxjq, I think he's going to be the one in control right here. He has so much more stack, keeping Raisy on the back foot. He just needs to find him. Definitely could have actually got the frag there if he chased it, but once again, I don't think he wanted to risk it.
Oh, Raisy in a bit of a bad situation here. Toxjq, though, doesn't seem content on chasing him too hard. I mean, all it takes is one wrong corner, and you walk into a Sorlag that has Acid Spit and a rocket launcher point blank to just delete your health, no matter who you are.
That movement was insane, by the way. The whole reason Toxjq beat Raisy to Mega, I do not think Raisy was expecting Toxjq to get there as quickly as he did. Just the sheer speed of which he was able to navigate that map and get to Mega from Heavy that fast, he just beat him there completely. I don't think Raisy was ready at all.
Also, Toxjq eating a bit of a psychic rocket there from Raisy. That one step ahead mind. Again, we're going back to this neutral game once again. 2 minutes, 30 seconds. Raisy, though, fully stacked on health and as much armor as he can carry at the moment.
His ability to recover when that much health and armor down is very impressive. Like, he was in big trouble just 30 seconds ago, and already just look at how much work he's been able to essentially undo. Now here he's in trouble, no armor.
But that's what happens when you pick up Mega Health as a tanky champion. We all saw just how much life Raisy had lost before then, but picking up the Mega Health, he still has the health advantage.
Completely. Can tank a fair few of those rails, and being able to tank rails is so important in this kind of matchup.
Oh, getting out of rail for rail. This is getting to be dangerous territory for both players. Raisy, though, he's stacked on health.
And the Acid Spit. Ready once more. No champion advantage just yet. We have about a minute and a half left, give or take. And ooh!
Still, though, hitting these full screen rails on someone as small as Slash, easier said than done. However, hitting rails on someone as big as Sorlag, easier than usual.
Completely.
Minute and a half, the clock again ticking down. I don't think we actually had a 6th champion round for quite some time. And again, the Acid Spit. Toxjq is just staying out of the range of the acid every single time these fights take place.
But no matter what happens, Raisy will always consistently have more stack, which means that Toxjq can't really stay and fight, even when the acid is down. As long as Raisy has an LG and Toxjq has less health, it's going to be advantageous for Raisy.
Oh, just connecting with the wall there. Raisy getting hit by another rail. Toxjq has just been making them count every single time. Toxjq just glances at Raisy. He's getting hit by a rail.
Even if he's not scoring a frag from these rails, he's keeping Raisy in a situation where he doesn't necessarily want to fight. But hang on, close to cool, a little bit more health. Uses the acid, a little bit mistimed. Running towards heavy, but no, the missed rail at the last possible minute.
And another one, that could have been death. Oh, and there's the forward flip, a full 360 flip. Toxjq going to take down that first life. Oh, here we go, 4 minutes, 30 seconds left to go. Does Toxjq run away again? Is Raisy going to be able to chase him down in time? This is Anarchy, he has the speed, but Slash versus Anarchy, BFFs, unless $1 million is on the line.
Well, here's the thing. Toxjq lands a rail on Raisy, and Raisy probably survives, probably pops injection, but he's still going to have 76 HP and no armor. If he gets hit by another rail, he's going to be dead, like 100%.
Oh, Toxjq was being patient. The plasma trail. Toxjq gets another frag on Raisy. That is probably going to be all she wrote for the second map. I can't imagine Raisy physically has the time to bring this one back, and that's going to be a complete turnaround from Toxjq.
Very impressive. Very impressive indeed. Everyone was kind of worried for a second right there, I think, where that first map was so one-sided. Everyone's asking themselves, are we going to see a repeat of regionals? But it looks to me, experience has definitely come through here. Right? Toxjq has been in this situation more than enough times where he needs to go, right, what I'm doing isn't working. What is the strategy change? How do I conquer this playstyle? And it looks like, at least for now, he's found an answer. Whether we're going to see it again in the next map is another story, but right now he's off to a fantastic start.
It's just competitive experience just shining through as like a glowing beacon for Toxjq so far. That first map, Corrupted Keep, was so one-sided. As one-sided as it was back at the European Regionals where these guys faced off. Where I believe Raisy, I think it was just 6 straight rounds in a very, very dominating fashion. And that's how he got to the Quake World Championships, by defeating Toxjq to do that. And here they are again having the rematch, and the first map was looking to be much of the same, but this is the experience, the adaptability, the ability to just adjust your game plan on the fly as and when you need to, and that's exactly what Toxjq's done. Now it's up to Raisy to do it in return.
Final map, Ruins of Sarnath. Normally, I think we'd be saying, well, this is a fantastic map for Toxjq, because the Slash has really been that hero of the day for Toxjq. And it makes sense. It's a champion that just fits his playstyle perfectly. It's the Quake 4 champion, but although it's a map that she plays very well on, Raisy and his Sorlag in particular does wonderful things on Ruins of Sarnath, and we've seen that time and time again in many tournaments.
Well, it's easy to say, like, hindsight is the easiest thing in the world, right? But fundamentally, a huge thing that we saw in the first map and the second map, or between the first map and the second map. First map, almost every single time Raisy would go for the acid spit. Sorlag, it was going to connect and do a ton of damage, or at the very least add a very irritating amount of lingering damage over time. In map 2, we basically didn't see it connect much of anything. I know a big part of that is less that Raisy was making the mistakes and more that Toxjq was kind of playing around it in a very interesting and intelligent fashion. But still, I think that's still a deciding factor.
So while we get this next map underway, we actually have a couple of replays to show you guys. Really some turning points of Toxjq and his rail. You know, we've talked about it so many different occasions, but this really was the deciding factor. Raisy was up 1 round, and right there, that last-minute turnaround from the top, that was the start of essentially everything, because that entire round, you notice the first frag there, 3 minutes and 58 seconds. That was a long round where nothing happened, but that was the moment I think the entire game plan that Toxjq wanted to take on board started. It started at that exact moment where he finally got the frag, survived for a minute, and essentially did that again for the other 3 rounds that he won. And Slash was really the champion, and the only champion in many ways that would have allowed him to do that, because it's the speed, but the damage of the plasma trail. When you've got good movement and you combine your movement with plasma trail, she's, in many ways, she can be the fastest champion in the game, of how quick she can navigate those little turns, because combining that with crouch slide, she can go basically wherever she wants. But this is the final map of the series. Raisy versus Toxjq, the rematch, but this time they're currently 1-1, but what a fantastic start! But hang on, not at all, the trade! Well,
I can imagine no more of a perfect way to start this final map.
Slash goes down.
Both of their star champions getting taken out immediately by each other at the exact same time. That is a great precedent to what I want the rest of this map to look like.
Anarchy versus Nyx. Already caught Raisy. The phase shift is going to concede that heavy armor. If he gets a good chase down, he might be able to steal this one, but I don't think Toxic's going to be too interested in fighting this all the way through. Just look at how little health he's got, and the injection. That's going to...
What a shot!
That's just going to be a freeze frag, rewarded by Mega. This round is substantially better for Raisy so far.
And caught a spawn. Toxic forced to inject, just trying to get away with the speed boost. He did manage to pick up a lightning gun just in time, but not quite enough damage. That round was much more of a comfortable pace for Raisy. He was able to just command those fights and chase Toxic down immediately.
You know, the crazy thing is that Blood Covenant was a very long-winded map this time round. Before we even almost got to a minute, first round already done.
That's what can happen.
Or what, spawning right near that heavy armor is Sorlag. Happy days.
I mean, heavy armor on a rail, nothing else yet. The LG2, Toxic. Question is what he could get. If he has the mega health, I assume he has the rocket, which he does, and there's a complete fight. Oh no, back to the corner. I don't know if he can safely get out here. There's damage over time too. That's probably guaranteed death, and it will be Raisy. This is much more of a comfortable map that we saw from him beforehand.
No trade here though. It's just going to be completely favorable for Raisy, getting that slash out of Toxic so early on. But again, it's the fact that he just walks around the corner, just happens to be point blank. That is only ever going to be a rage that Sorlag wants to be.
Oh, shot from behind, catching some sick air. Mega health going to go the way of Raisy too, though, keep himself nice and topped up. Now, how hard is Toxic going to chase this? We know he desperately wants to take out this Sorlag. There's been such a thorn in his side.
There's no two ways about it. This Sorlag needs to die, and it needs to die right now.
Less than a minute in, though, and already Raisy's got himself a comfortable lead. How long can he hold on to it, though? It is Toxic with that next. The big thing about this matchup is going to be that Ghost Walk. Popping Ghost Walk is going to nullify any damage over time that might have been lingering beforehand. So if he does wander into an acid puddle and he just gets chased down, he can pop the Ghost Walk to nullify it completely, but Ghost Walk is an expensive thing to not have in a fight, and what a rail.
Not only hitting a rail, but picking up the mega health and just making that divide between health so much bigger, because now you've got more and they've got less.
That was really well played, though. Toxic managing to slip away. Raisy was actively trying to chase down where he thought Toxic was going to go. Toxic able to keep himself hidden and stock himself back up again.
Great situation for Raisy. Funnily enough, if he wants to, he can be the one that plays passive.
That's 2 rails, though. But still, this is sort of like we can see just how much health she still has. Oh, Acid's coming through.
No Ghost Walk available either. Has to pick up the health, but even if he survives this exchange, he cannot take a single substantial hit from anything.
Still, though, Toxic was able to do so much damage that Raisy wasn't able to hang around to try and finish off the kill. Raisy had to go and stock himself up himself. Is going to get himself the heavy armor too, so that's going to be a tanky Sorlag for now.
You saw in that exchange, even though Toxic hit 2 rails and Raisy hit nothing, Raisy still had more health. And he's forcing him to run away with that Ghost Walk. While he's going into Ghost Walk, he's still this weak.
Death from
Goes
above.
in for the Mega. And just like that, can be as brave as he likes. A free fight again. Toxic down to his final champion.
Toxic looked left, he looked right, he looked down, but he should have looked up in that situation. It was a big flying Sorlag with a rocket launcher up there with Acid. Still here. Oh, hits him with that too. That's going to be the kill, most likely. No, wait, no, he popped the injection just in time.
At the magical moment. The problem is now, though, he is so weak, and I think Raisy's going to acknowledge that. Freshly picking up the mega health, too. If he finds Toxic now, Toxic is in big trouble. And he's right behind him.
Or is he going to get away from this? He's trying to do as much damage as possible. Raisy is going to get it. Toxic misses one crucial rocket. And that one mistake has put Raisy 1 round away from moving on and sending Toxic back to the lower bracket.
This is
round 1.
This is a change of pace. This is an unbelievable change of pace. We saw aggression in the first map. We saw the complete opposite in the second map. And in this final map situation, Raisy just keeps catching Toxic at the start of these rounds, point blank. And point blank is where Toxic cannot survive. He just can't tank this damage.
So 1 round away from having a victory in this round robin scenario, so definitely still going to have a chance to still make it out of this bracket, but obviously going down 1 game to someone like Raisy, I mean, that's going to put you in a situation you don't necessarily want to be in.
And he's lost Slash again, and it really has been his star champion, and all 3 rounds lost immediately.
Oh, what a shot on the direct rocket from around the corner. Toxic put in a absolutely miserable situation now, and Raisy with the Sorlag looking completely untouchable on Ruins of Sarnath.
This is such a difficult situation. He's got a lightning gun, goes in for the injection, trying to survive.
Damage over time.
Oh!
Didn't even need it.
Oh, did not even need the ticking damage of that acid. Just the last final nail in the coffin, and the final play was a sick rail on Toxjq instead. I mean, what a change of events right there.
I mean, that was Raisy able to just enforce what was working for him in the first map again. He was just point blank. He was at that range that he was clearly confident in hitting as many stacks of that poison, that acid as possible, which makes me, the proof is what we just saw, right? Just how fast you can shred anyone's life down if you can hit enough of those acid.
If you're not able to get your favorite champion on deck,
I mean, look at this. Look at that final play. It wasn't even needed. It wasn't even needed. I think there was a very good chance that the damage over time was going to finish him off, but the rail was just there to cement that final frag.
I mean, if he's going to get away, he may as well give it a go, right? But that last moment, it was Toxjq worked so hard, and he put in so much effort to stop what just happened there from happening in Blood Covenant, and he achieved that to the point where you're like, right, is this strategy just not going to work anymore? But really, in those 3 rounds, every single exchange, Raisy just caught him point blank, and there was just nothing Toxjq could do to stop it. So while we get this next match underway, we're going to let the guys over on the analyst desk break down this series that we just watched. Take it away, guys.
Thank you very much, sir. And we saw our first, I guess, the inaugural duel here at the Quake World Championships. And, you know, an interesting game, right? There was a